width of a cigarette paper between most people and being in absolute poverty. I think the statistics show that 85% of the population live from paycheck to paycheck. Yeah. And if you think of the kind of crisis that can come along and affect people's lives, illness, breakdown of family relationships, or loss of a job, a lot of the people we talk to, their stories started, 3 years ago with, well, my wife left me, or my parents decided they didn't want me in the house anymore. Yeah, and that spiral then to the lowest rung of poverty is a fairly quick one.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Money Matters with me, Jonny. Now, I'm not accompanied by my wonderful microphone that I'm usually accompanied by. That's because my wonderful guest, Matthew, I thought was actually only available after my usual shift within the office. So I thought I'll leave my microphone at home and just and obviously do it after. But because Matthew's so busy doing what he does, helping out the less privileged, I thought that was the only time he was available, but I was wrong. He's available right now. How are you doing, Matthew?
I'm good, thank you very much. How are you?
Yeah, smashing. I thought I'd lost you then for a second. I thought as I was bigging you up, I thought it looked like you're frozen, but you must have just been stood really, really still. And that's a very good skill, I imagine. But first of all, Matthew, I've bigged you up. I've hinted at what you do and what you get up to. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do in the local community. And even better, if you could just move your camera slightly further up, we could see your wonderful face. There we go. Fantastic.
Yeah. Well, basically, I'm from Teesside, and I moved into Yorkshire to start Homeless Not Hopeless. I started it 2 years ago in December. And we go to Bradford, Foster Square Arches, and we feed the homeless and the less privileged with tins or hot food, cold food, biscuits, and all the rest of the clothing and everything like that.
Well, first of all, it's amazing what you do. I thought I'd let you introduce it, and you introduced it wonderfully. Homeless, not helpless. Sorry, what a wonderful little thing that is. So, what got you to starting that initiative then?
Well, basically, I was brought up in care for a big part of my life from 4 to 21, and then you just get kicked out by the care system, and they don't really bother you in a sense that they give you any life skills. So I went from pillar to post here, there, and everywhere, and then 2 years ago, on the 5th of December 2019, I just thought I've had enough. And I just wanted to have something different to look forward to. And then I rang a few places and they said, basically, we can offer you a room in a cellar, which was only, 6 foot by 6 foot, just to store some clothes and some food and stuff. And I thought, well, I can start it. And if it only gets past Christmas, I've done something well. And now it's like 2 years on.
Well, fantastic. It's a fantastic initiative. Even more wondrous is we've got a third guest who I had no idea was appearing. Stephen Richardson.
Hi, how are you?
I'm absolutely fine. It's like magic. You appeared out of nowhere. Nothing never mentioned. And now there's a group of two. Wonderful. So, Stephen, tell us who you are and what you do about this.
Well, all right. My name is Steve Richardson, and I saw something posted by Matt on Facebook just before Christmas, and asking for people to help collect bags of clothes. So I responded to that. I met him in a pub early January, and realised that there was a real opportunity here for a group of people to actually make a massive difference to people's lives. I think traditionally, we all think about homelessness as people sleeping in doorways, and that certainly happens. But actually, homelessness is a complex and broad issue. It encompasses both people who maybe live in a hostel, people who sofa surf, and some days just people who don't have enough money and have to make important decisions between heating and clothing for the kids. Yeah. So we grew. So we decided between Matthew and myself and a couple of other people that instead of, and Matthew were doing a great job collecting clothes and delivering them to other organisations like the St George's Crypt, Salvation Army to distribute, that we'd try and put that help as near to the front line as possible. And literally, I think the 14th of January 2020, we turned up in Bradford Foster Square with a table and 2 flasks of hot water and a gazebo, and stood there and thought, well, let's make people cup of soup and cups of coffee. You fast forward 2 years, and last night, 25 volunteers were there. We take up 3 of the arches in Bradford Foster Square, 9 tables. We do a cooked meal, a proper street cafe with pot noodles and cup of soups. We have a clothing bank, and we have a food bank where people can take food away if they're lucky enough to have somewhere to prepare it at a later stage. And there were 100 people there last night. Yeah, falling into all those categories of out and out homeless and people who just need some support. Yeah, I think what's important to remember is none of us are far away from that being our lives. Yeah, you know, there's the width of a cigarette paper between most people and being in absolute poverty. I think the statistics show that 85% of the population live from paycheck to paycheck. Yeah, and if you think of the kind of crisis that can come along and affect people's lives, illness, yeah, breakdown of family relationships, or loss of a job, yeah, a lot of the people we talk to, their stories started, 3 years ago with, well, my wife left me, or my parents decided they didn't want me in the house anymore. Yeah, and that spiral then to the lowest rung of poverty is a fairly quick one. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's actually, you mentioned that quite powerfully actually, and described quite a range there actually as well. I mean, there was a film actually I watched not too long ago called Nomadland, which was based around the idea of homelessness not necessarily being, as you say, just one particular thing. In fact, sometimes people do sometimes people do choose to live in that life. But of course, you touched on it as well. Money is a really big factor in this, absolutely, as well. Back to you then, Matthew.
Well,
I'll throw this to you. So Steve has sort of touched on it already. And from your perspective then, growing up, didn't have an easy upbringing. You've seen a lot of things on the ground, on the streets. Do you think that people get into homelessness because of existing debts and existing financial problems more than necessarily other issues? Or do you think that's not as big a contributing factor as maybe it just being a life choice?
It's just basically a lot of relationships break down for different reasons, but I don't think. I think if sometimes if you're not taught how to budget, sometimes that can be a struggle.
So Matthew was just talking about finances being a factor and not being able to budget from an early age. How much of that do you think is a factor in what you've seen? Do you think education, financial education in particular, really is a big thing, and that's why so many people end up needlessly getting into debt?
Let's have a mental experiment now, a little game, right? Tonight, John, you're sleeping in McDonald's doorway, right? Mm-hmm. You've got one plastic bag. What are you going to put in it? Yeah, there's a problem. So what am I going to put in that plastic bag? And I'm going to get to sleep maybe at 11 o'clock. And if the police don't move me on, I'll be freezing cold. And at 6 a.m., I'll be back out on the street. What are you going to do for the next 16 hours before you can find somewhere else to sleep? At what point do you start to sink into a point where, you know what, if there was some alcohol or some drugs, it might just make my next 24 hours a little more bearable? Yeah. So yeah, look, education, yes, definitely. I think support for people. We've just seen the largest expansion of the welfare state in the entire history of the welfare state. The government effectively put, and I'm thinking, I think this is true figure, 60% of working people on a national living wage. Yeah. we can do it. As a country, we have the capacity to say, you know what, here's a support mechanism. We will take care of 80% of everybody's income. Yeah. And now we're just gonna take that away from people. But that's the kind of radical thinking this country needs if it's going to tackle, well, not just homelessness, but poverty in general. Yeah. Poverty, the gap between the richest in our society and the poorest in our society has grown massively in the last 10 years. Yeah. And until we as a nation decide that it's obscene to pay the manager of a bank £1 million bonus and at the same time take 20 quid a week off somebody on universal credit, until we decide that is obscene, yeah, I do despair to a large extent on what we can do to tackle entrenched issues like homelessness. Me personally, I do not. Homeless, not hopeless, doesn't solve any problems. We are first aid, right? That's all we are. We're a first aid service. On a Wednesday night, we'll make sure anybody who comes to us leaves with some dry clothes and a stomach full of food. But that doesn't even begin to tackle the problem. Yeah. We'll be good as a society when people like us don't have to exist. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I actually said this last week because a friend of Matthew's who referred me to Matthew, Gav Melling, who runs Men's Den, he runs big thumbs up for Gav. Yeah. I don't know if you know Gav, Stephen. Do you also know Gav Melling?
I think I do, yeah.
You all know each other, I'm sure, all wonderful people, all that little network bubble. And Gav, I said actually on the interview feature, your service is wonderful. You look out for people, men who have suffered real hard mental health damage. And it's a wonderful thing that you do. But in actual fact, if those services provided by the government were at a high enough standard or services were readily accessible, then his voluntary service would not be necessary. Would not be needed.
I'm sure, yeah, people like Gav would be very happy to become unemployed himself, and me too, you know.
Yeah.
It'd be great. It'd be great thing we didn't have to do it.
But I must say, you do. I think, Stephen, and I'll throw this to Matthew actually. Since you've been involved, Matthew, I mean, Stephen talks, about the service, and he says actually, he sort of said, oh well, we don't do a lot other than this, but actually, other than that bit, that's a lot actually in the grand scheme of things to people who desperately need a helping hand. I just to throw it to you, Matthew. Was there any story or individual, or in particular an event or a person who you've helped along the way, who you feel really stands out to you personally?
Steve can help me on the person directly, but personally, what hit home, and it's really nice to see, is we've helped. Two people, in fact. One's a lad called Jay, that's back on his feet, and he was helping us for a while, but he was a service user or a person that needed our service or whatever originally, and also a young man called Liam as well. He was in a bad state when he come along, like really bad. Curbside sort of like thing, and he's really pulled himself out of it. He's now got a flat. It's fully furnished. It's not the rate, but it's home.
Yeah, can you elaborate on that, Steve?
I'd echo that. There is probably 4 or 5 people we've had the joy to watch turn their lives around. I don't in any way, shape, or form take credit for that. Other than we were a friendly face on a Wednesday and a Saturday night, but it is great, and we were able to then put out appeals to get them TVs and sofas and beds. It is possible to do.
Generally, then, when you look at the wider scope and the wider scale, how
all sticks in the thing.
How much of a problem is this across the local area for you personally? How many people really are suffering and aren't, even with your assistance, getting the necessary help that they need?
Well, I think basically the people the people indoors, as I say, like the councils, the police, the government, just need to get a backbone and try and help us instead of against us.
And to keep that with you, Matthew, how badly has the £20 uplift cut hit people around that area for the universal credit?
It's a big loss, I think. I haven't really spoke to anyone about it because we don't really get into benefits and all that sort of jazz. But I just think as though you give it in one hand and take it out of another. Do you know what I mean? That could be the electric or the gas for a week or whatever. So yeah, they just need to do more for everyone really, and help us instead of against us.
What are your general aims then for this organisation? What do you want to do in the coming months, coming years that you aren't already doing?
Well, basically, we've got 5,200 followers on Facebook as of today.
Wow.
Yeah, we're just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I honestly can't tell you because I really don't know how many volunteers actually we have got. I know some work last night, some work today, some work next week, but I actually don't know how many we've got. I bet we've got 60, maybe more volunteers, and it's always good to see that they're coming through with all different experiences. Like Steve, for example, never been homeless in his life. Yeah. And then he comes to us like a month after we joined, and now he's the backbone of us, really. He says what we do and everyone else does it. And that's where it should be. And it's really nice to see that we have got a good group of people. As I said, we're out on Wednesdays and Saturday. The first and third Saturday every Wednesday. But it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. We could do with more donations of clothing and possibly standing orders, but that'll come in time. We're not really on our backside at the minute because we do have followers that help us in certain situations. But if anyone wants to volunteer, they're always welcome. Just find us on Facebook.
And first of all, we will put the Facebook in the description anyway, and we'll help that for you. But first of all, just in case anyone can't read the description, what would that Facebook be?
It's Homeless Not Hopeless. The website is www.hnh.org.uk.
Yeah, very good. And also, just for a reminder, remind people where you're based generally, but obviously it stretches out from that. But where are you usually based?
Well, we're based in Keighley. That's where our main unit is, where we sort the donations, and all the donations come from people dropping off or our volunteers bring it. We do the sorting here, but then we go to Bradford under the arches, which hopefully in the next coming weeks, there's possibility, I'm not saying it's going to happen, that we have got a building to occupy. I don't really know the update of it because I spoke to Steve like split second last night because we are so busy. And he just told us that something, and it's not come from Steve, it's come from high above, council or whoever, have said that we can possibly occupy a building for the food provision, really. So we won't be moving a million miles away, but it'll be warmer. We can have a heated. Apparently there's a full-blown kitchen, so we can get cooking in there. So yeah, it'll be good.
I think John. I think Matt speaks very passionately and very eloquently, but our growth has always been organic. We've tried to identify a need. We've tried it, and if we're successful at it and we get the volunteers to support us, we do more of it. It'd be great to be able to do 2 nights every week and I'm sure that'll come when we can. Yeah, there's the options of just looking at how we deliver that service on the front line. There is a discussion that I had yesterday earlier on in the week with somebody that we're going to pursue. If it's not for us, then it's not for us. But yeah, our growth will be organic. Matt is right. We are holding our own financially, but money's always good. Yeah, if people would, we've currently got a campaign to get all of our followers on Facebook to pledge £1 a month. £1 a month. Yeah, you just watch what we can do. Yeah, and and John, feel free to get a standing order set up. The bank details are on the Facebook page. Yeah. But yeah, more of the same. One thing we know for sure, the demand for what we do hasn't gone down at all in the 2 years that we've been doing this. And even through COVID, whilst there was a lot of extra resource put forward by the government, it didn't diminish the need of people to be supported. And all that government support, the extra money going into accommodation, the extra money going into help on the streets has now ended because COVID's disappeared, allegedly. Yeah. Apart from it hasn't, of course.
Yeah. Sure. Very, very, very well put there, Stephen, actually. And as well, I mean, and I know I sort of said at the start, and you seem to be much better with your 5G now, so that's very, very good. Very good. You must have found some overhead somewhere where that's probably what it is. I don't know. But so I'll fire these questions to you, then give Matthew a bit of a rest with his voice. So we were actually talking a bit before, and I was talking about debts and finances. Of course, we come from we're a free debt advice service. We look at mental health. We look at poverty-stricken situations across the local communities, and often they sort of go hand in hand. But what I found really interesting from your point of view is actually, what little money they have to play with. Is it any wonder, I suppose, with some people that they do end up like this?
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. If you're there's a guy called Paul, £285 a month he gets. Now, this is if he can access it because he lives on the street. Oftentimes, he has no signal on his mobile phone. You cannot access social service support in this country without an internet connection now. There's no drop-in centre. But if he can get his hands on his money, he's got £285 a month. Where do you start? I mean, you can give as much free debt advice as you like, right? He's also got an alcohol and a drug problem. Yeah. And he sleeps in a sleeping bag in an archway on a railway station. Yeah, and you know what? He has some major problems mentally. What a shock! Yeah. So the other side of that is people I think that probably would benefit from some support, right? They've got living allowance, they've got a stable home. But they just really do struggle to make ends meet. And it's not this. The government have this slogan that we want to make work pay, but it doesn't. A significant number of people living on the breadline are in work and are receiving in-work benefits. And every extra pound they get 82 pence taken off them. Yeah. So the poverty trap. We used to think we're a 1960s and 70s thing, but it exists today, and we should be grateful that the government think that £9.50 an hour is a reasonable amount of money to live on. Yeah, they did more for people who drink prosecco regularly in the budget than they did for poor people.
Yeah, I was just going to actually say, Stephen, to come on top of that. So you mentioned the budget, autumn budget that's just come out, £9.50 minimum wage. One thing they did do, which I'm interested to hear your point on, is so the taper rate, which actually is money that you know what the taper rate is.
They're going to reduce the taper rate, and that's incredibly welcome.
Yeah. So just for clarification, the taper rate has gone from 63% currently or previously, and it will move to 55%, and that means that people who are 55. Yeah, people who are on the breadline, who are on universal credit and working will feel the benefit of a minimum wage rise, and B, also they're paying less back in terms of, as you say, I suppose a hidden tax really on them.
It is a marginal rate of taxation of every pound that they earn. Yes, it's going to be 55%. But, you know, when I think a government back in the 1980s suggested a 55% high rate income tax, we were told that every rich person would leave the country. Now, you know, that's yeah, these are super tax rates. Yeah.
Yeah, no. I mean, you speak a fair argument. It's something I'd love to speak to you when you're on Wi-Fi in a glowing setting. And I'm sure that's something we can organise as well. And also, my thanks to Matthew for bringing you on so unexpectedly. I didn't expect to be joined. This is the first time we've ever done 3 people on one. Only apologise for your 5G signal, not yourself, just your 5G. It wasn't quite on, wasn't quite working as well today. Sorry for the 5G, but it's very, very good. Matthew, you were the expected guest today. I'll give you the lasting word then. Just summarise what this experience has been for you since you've joined. How have you developed as a person? How has it affected you personally?
Well, it's just making me a better person, really, because I just didn't have no ambition in life, and once I set this up, it's absolutely. I still wake up every day, checking Facebook, to see if it's real.
Yeah.
Because as I said, I set this up. I set it up in December 2019, and I didn't expect it to get past my birthday, which is in March. And as I said, 2 years on, we're still cracking at the whip. Getting more people involved, and it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And as I said, now I've got my own flat with the help of Steve, which is another story. But I just feel as though it's made me a better person, really, because I didn't have no life ambitions. I was just like living day by day. Just if I could get a tin of beans and a loaf of bread, it was a bonus. But now, as I said, I don't get paid for it, but I didn't set it up to be paid. I just set it up to help people. But it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I was informed the other day by a few volunteers. I won't name them in case they don't want to be named. But they told me, hand on heart, H&H, homeless not hopeless, whatever you call us, is going nowhere. Which to me is nice that I've got that backing. Not from a financial point of view, just knowing that they're not going to leave my side.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And it's wonderful you managed to build a sustainable venture, not just for your own mental health, but to help the mental and physical well-being actually of all of those across the local community. And just like the likes of James Foy and Gav Melling, you provide a wonderful out there for others, which is free. Please do give this a look. It's wonderful. We'll call it H&H. I like it. It's a good acronym. Homeless, not hopeless. It's even better. Check out Homeless, Not Hopeless. So Stephen's now out of his car. And I will say, Stephen, big thanks for coming on. A big thanks for Matt as well. But Stephen, I'm sure I would love to talk to you actually when you're in the comfort of your own Wi-Fi. And I'm sure we could have a wonderful discussion actually on certain stories that we haven't got round to today.
I think I'm going again. I'm going to say bye-bye.
Okay. He said bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you very much. I hope to speak to you soon. And thank you to Matthew. Yep. And thanks to everyone that's listened. Take care, stay safe, and see you next week.
Well, that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to smash the like button, give us a nice comment, and most importantly, hit the subscribe bell. You hit the subscribe bell, it means you can keep up to date with all of the latest features that come on this channel, whether that be Money Matters or something else associated with Money Support Group. Hit the subscribe bell. Until next time, thanks for listening, stay safe, and enjoy the rest of your week.